What's going on? What's happening? Dude, there's gunshots. I'm out of here.
What you're looking at is new video from Saturday morning shooting inside what's being called as Seattle's Capitol Hill Organized Protest Zone, or CHOP. 2 people were shot that night and 1 person was killed. The other remains in the hospital tonight. Good evening, I'm Vanessa Mishanya. There are conflicting stories about what led up to that shooting. Our Amy Marino has the latest.
Well, one victim remains in critical condition at Harborview Medical Center, and police tell us this is an ongoing investigation. At the same time, some of the people involved out here have come up with some proposals that they hope might make the situation a little bit safer.
Emotions are running high.
It was a tense scene in the early morning hours, something far different than what Jake Shields had been experiencing during his time at the Capitol Hill Organized Protest, also known as CHOP. He live streamed videos over several days during his time there, including this one that seems to capture the gunshots early Saturday morning.
What's happening?
Shields said people have been partying in the streets right there until there were frustrations after somebody lit off fireworks. Then it escalated even more.
Saw the ambulances, the fire trucks arrive. I think they were trying to get in there closer to where the guy got shot. Obviously, there was a ton of people in the street at that time, really heated.
Police have not released a possible motive. Councilmember Shama Sawant released this statement saying, in part, there are indications that this may have been a right-wing attack. We reached out to her to try to get more information on that, but we're not able to connect with her or her staff. Skills says he didn't see anything like that. Representatives from CHOP sent us a statement saying the altercation may have previous history, as it seems the situation escalated because of gang affiliations. Our de-escalation teams were en route. They blamed standard operating procedure for any delay in medical treatment because ambulance crews waited for police to secure the scene. They went on to say no one within CHOP denied entry to PD within any organizational capacity. Officers deciding on their own not to enter an area is not the same as being denied entry. Seattle police released officer body camera video and said crowds kept them from securing the scene so paramedics could respond. And some proposals that were posted online today from people involved in CHOP included limiting the hours from 8 to 8 or possibly trying to do some sort of containment on the use of drugs and alcohol here within the zone. Now, we have also confirmed late this afternoon that Seattle Fire has loaned some medical equipment to the medics here, including some stretchers. On Capitol Hill, Amy Marino, King 5 News.
Late this afternoon, just within the hour, Mayor Jenny Durkan issued a statement about the Capitol Hill protests, and it read in part, Chief Best and the Seattle Police Department have been working with the Seattle Fire Department and other departments to implement new strategies to deal with regularly changing circumstances in the area. I believe together we can create a Capitol Hill environment that allows for peaceful demonstrations at Cal Anderson, quality of life for residents, and take concrete steps towards a new vision for policing in our city.